Hello everybody, DBZ Assets here. Today we are going to be taking a look at the brand new super attack animations for the INT LR Father Son Galick Gun Trunks and Vegeta. These essays just dropped. These bad boys are so fresh. This video has not even rendered to be in 720p yet, which is the highest that you can get from the Dokkan essay Twitter videos. We only have 480p. That's how early we are today, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you as well, oh boy, am I excited for these animations. These look good. These look really, really good. I've watched these a couple times already in preparation for this video. Of course, as per usual, we are going to watch through these in 1x speed first, and then we are going to break them down. I will say, unfortunately, Goku Black kind of got shafted here. His essay is not great. It's definitely not the worst. It's certainly better than a lot of other unfeatured units. But, so these guys have a intro to super attacks. Obviously, they are an LR. And the Galick Gun is actually the active skill, which is pretty interesting. So far, from everything that I've seen, I quite like these guys. There's already a lot of little movement things in this that I see that I like. This is amazing. Blue Vegeta, I don't know why, but in Dokkan they just never can do wrong with him. He just always looks peak, and I think that they absolutely nailed that here. By the way, oh, that spin is so good. We're going to talk about it. I did want to mention, I did see some comments on some of my past videos and community posts and stuff like that about the animation analysis videos that these are supposed to be viewed in 2x speed and not necessarily 1x speed, so that's why sometimes the essays don't look as good, which I know that was the case for what a lot of people are thinking with Golden Frieza. I can agree to that to some extent, but also 1x speed is how they display the super attacks, you know, like when they obviously show them off like this, and of course, you know, the option is there. So, I don't know. I kind of agree and disagree with that point, but those of you who are commenting that, don't think I don't see your comment. I do agree with you, I guess, halfway. But regardless, we have the active skill here, which looks very, very nice. I think all around, and I don't think that this is going to change after the animation analysis video, but I think overall, I think these attacks are just really solid through and through, right? There are a couple of little things in here that I could definitely nitpick about them that I will definitely nitpick. Don't you worry about that. But let's go ahead and get into it. So we have Goku Black to start us off. Obviously, we are going to take a look at his animations as well. Of course, you know, we always do take a look at the unfeatured unit. So first of all, I will say the aura here is very nice. I can't remember the last time I saw Dokkan do the base form Goku Black aura. So this is definitely a very good showing of it here as well. By the way, this card is when Goku Black comes to the present and he fights Super Saiyan 2 Goku. Funny enough, it's the wall scroll on my wall. Yeah, so I really like the aura that they chose here. Definitely very good job on that. This movement is not too bad. It is a little bit choppy, obviously. There is a lot of just like bam, bam, bam from one pose to another. But obviously, as you saw in the actual animation, it looks pretty smooth. And of course, he is moving very quick, and it's supposed to be sort of a snappy movement, so it's not too bad. It does still feel a little bit weird. It's also very jarring looking at this low quality asset go to this, which is obviously a lot more higher in quality. It is a little bit jarring in that regard. This section is kind of strange because I feel like they definitely could have done a better job with punches rather than, you know, what they're doing here is they're sort of giving the illusion of punches. They literally just flip the sprite back and forth, basically. Not actually flip it. It's obviously a different sprite because, you know, one arm you can see it, you know, extended on the other punch. You know what I mean. But they just shake the screen to sort of emulate that. However, I do like this little bit of minimal movement here when he's obviously retracting his fist and stancing up once again. I think that that's pretty cool. That head position change is a little bit weird. And it's so funny to me that, like, this is what I always find strange about some Dokkan animations, right? They bother to animate this whole thing, which looks nice. But then they have them immediately change to this, right? And then just go from one position to the next. Why did you animate him pulling back? I don't know. Just very strange. But obviously the punch forward, right? They did give his arm a little bit of movement there. Let me tab through that, you can see, obviously, it's moving down a little bit. It's still kind of weird because, like, the punch also doesn't really line up with Goku, right? It's sort of at his armpit there, and then it goes down to his waist. A little strange, but that's obviously more so the sprites, being the sprites than anything. Then we obviously get this shot here of his fist flying up, which is pretty cool. I will say this is definitely nice. I like when they do these sort of anime-esque, you know, like motion lines, and obviously the lines on him too. But his pose here is really awkward. Like, I think this is pretty close to the anime, but I don't know. This definitely feels a little bit too, like, stiff for my tastes. I think that's a good way to describe this whole animation, honestly, is it feels pretty stiff in nature. I will say I do like the small little hair movement. I don't know if you caught that there. When he goes here, his hair moves a little bit with his head. And obviously, again, see, they animate these like little minimal movements before having the kick. It's so weird that some of it isn't animated that way. This part looks pretty cool. I definitely like the way that they do the anime motion line. See, look, they have them animated there, moving backward. I don't know. It's a little strange. But yeah, I do like this a lot. I think it emphasizes as well Goku Black, especially when he's not yet Rosé. His sort of very erratic and like very rough around the edges sort of fighting style, I guess. I think this essay does do a pretty good job emulating that. The smoke effect is okay. It's nothing too crazy here. We do get the card art pop up on the screen. And then, of course, we get this shot, which this shot does look pretty nice. I'm not going to lie. I think that the wind up to this is even all right. You know, obviously it is a couple of, you know, like frame changes here and him opening his hand, but it's not too bad. I think it looks all right. Even his face is cut pretty all right. It does look a little bit off, but I was so excited when the key charged up like this. And then when I saw the Ki Blast fire off like this, I was so disappointed. I use this terminology a lot in my animation analysis videos, but this is some Dragon Ball Heroes Ki Blast, and I mean that in the Dragon Ball Heroes promotional anime, where they literally just have these little circles move across the screen, basically, and that's exactly what they do here. I will say I gotta give them a little bit of credit because they actually do form a little bit more into ovals towards the end, so it's sort of like, you know, they're shooting forward at breakneck speed. But it is still basically a bunch of circles slamming into the enemy, which I'm never really a fan of. The explosion effect looks okay here, but it definitely looks a little bit more like just a PNG that they're shaking, even though you can see it does have a little bit of movement because it obviously does get bigger. But sometimes I feel like Dokkan overdoes it a little bit on the screen shake. Anyway, moving on, we now have the intro for Trunks and Vegeta here. I gotta say, I do quite like this. I think, first of all, before we even get into anything crazy, this does capture the style of the Goku Black arc pretty well. When I saw this, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much the Goku Black art style to a T, so that's pretty cool. I will say Vegeta's face does look a little bit weird in this shot, but it's not terrible for sure. It's kind of funny, too, because this is one thing that I think is just something that happens a lot in Dokkan. You have, like, this that almost looks like it's a screenshot from the anime, right? And then you have this, which you can see, like, the sort of darker lines of Vegeta make you feel like, wow, this is definitely a Dokkan asset. Trunks almost looks a little bit more like he fits in the scene. It's kind of strange. But this animation, overall, super clean. I did not even notice, funny enough. Maybe it's just because, like, the color palette is so dark. But when Vegeta lowers his arms from the crossed pose, they animate it obviously going down. But then here, he just kind of skips to the end, and honestly, I did not even notice that the first time. And there's a little bit of follow-up movement there, too, after he puts his hand down, which I think that definitely helps, right? Let me go back to that. That little bit of follow-up movement definitely helps your brain sort of, you know, trick it to think that you didn't see that, right? When it has a little bit of movement going down. Definitely very, very nice. I like this part a lot, actually. I think it's animated pretty well. Obviously, they're mostly just standing there talking. This, unfortunately, these are definitely some Dokkan sprites if I've ever seen them. This did take me out of the immersion a little bit the first time I saw this. I like this shot a lot, don't get me wrong. I definitely like the way that this looks with them standing there looking at Black and Zamasu from the back. But these are definitely a lot lower quality than everything that we've seen up until this point in this animation. So it's kind of a shame that they didn't use a little bit higher quality for this. This is the part, though, where Vegeta's face really looks a little bit weird. I think that the art style is still fine, but his face just feels a little bit off there to me. This slide also where he moves forward is a little strange, in my opinion. I feel like it doesn't look like he's walking, right? They definitely just had the PNG slide forward a little bit rather than him actually like taking a step, or them animating it to look like that he's taking a step. That is a little bit strange and off-putting to me, but I believe the rest of this animation, I didn't see anything, at least off the first viewing, that I really didn't like. This shot right here looks really cool. I like this as well. Also, you can see the minimal camera movement. It's even so hard to tell with going frame by frame here, but you can see Trunks kind of moving back a little bit while Vegeta moves forward. Obviously, that's the camera angle panning. That looks really cool. I definitely like that a lot. We obviously have Trunks come to a sudden realization here. Interestingly enough, I will say, I like this shot a lot. Trunks' face, though, here also looks a little bit off to me. I think, honestly, it's just that his eye is too big. Maybe they did that just to emphasize, obviously, as he gasps, his eye gets a little bit smaller. So if they made it any smaller than that, it would look a little bit weird. But I think, honestly, it's just the big eye that sort of gets it for me. This shot of Vegeta. Oh! This is a nice shot right here. Oh, my gosh. This... Oh, that's good. That's real good. Oh, that's good. Wow, that's very good. That is such a clean shot of Vegeta. I do like this pan out here as well, even though it is just a quick cut. We kind of go back to the sort of style that Vegeta was in moments ago when they were standing there before they had the back shot, right? This is literally... Oh, wow, that is literally the same asset, huh? No wonder it looks so stylistically the same. It is quite literally the same. Funny enough, they just changed Trunks' face. I didn't even notice that he was still shocked in the background when I watched this for the first time. Yeah, that is absolutely just the same Trunks asset for his body, except they just changed the face. Oh, look at that impact shot. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so going back to this section here where Trunks is standing in the background, I will say I do kind of wish that his, like, body was a little bit more stanced up rather than looking sort of stiff like this when he's so shocked. But I guess you're not really paying attention to Trunks in the shot anyway. Alright, so we obviously have Vegeta sort of squat down here, which I did not even know this super big jump cut was here when I first watched it. From the sort of squatted pose here to straight up, I did not even notice that the first time. So if I don't notice it, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But yeah, this squat with a little bit of follow-up at the end and the Super Saiyan Blue, oh, it looks good. I really, really like how this looks. First of all, regarding the Super Saiyan Blue transformation, right? First of all, I'm saying that a lot, I'm sorry. That's my default go-to word right now when I need something to say. This impact frame, heat. Very, very cool way to emphasize the transformation. Another great impact frame. Another fantastic one as well. Obviously, we have the key sort of envelop Vegeta from the bottom. This is also a great way for them to mask them changing the color of the assets, because if you notice here, Vegeta's color palette is obviously a lot darker to sort of match with the style of, you know, what's going on. And then of course when he actually gets the key enveloping him, he's glowing with the Super Saiyan Blue glow, which honestly this kind of art looks exactly like Blue Evolution Vegeta from Buchigiri Match, the art style. It looks exactly like that. So strange. But yeah, the key exploding around him, and I love the shape that it takes. You can also immediately see Vegeta's hair begin to move in the wind, which is really, really cool. The key exploding and then moving around him looks so good. They nailed the key effects in this for sure. I will say, I do think his hair moves a little bit too fast in the full motion. Like, it doesn't look too bad in this speed, right? I cannot wait to see how it looks in 2x speed, if it already looks a little bit too fast in 1x speed. Let me hit you with that real quick. Let me go to the 1x speed. Maybe it's just me nitpicking that, and it definitely could be, but look how fast his hair looks, and that's literally just 1x speed. As a matter of fact, I forgot, we have 2x speed at our disposal. Let's just see how the hair looks in 2x speed. Oh my gosh, there's no way. That's funny. That's really funny. Okay, so either way, we have this cut to Trunks here, where he is looking a little shocked. I will say, I'm not really a fan of this expression. Maybe it's just his eyes look a little bit too flat, or they look too big, and his mouth looks a little bit weird, but I do think that his face looks a little bit off in this section. I don't know. Again, that could be just me nitpicking and not remembering this section as well, but I guess he is also trying to show a lot of expression because obviously he's shocked here, right, before getting ready to stance up. But that does look a little bit off to me. The other thing I will say that kind of bothers me about this, and I like what comes next. First of all, this is a super high quality asset, and you can tell like the change in the dark, like black lines around Trunks sort of is a little bit jarring for me personally, but again, that's because my eye is so highly trained. So that sounds so like I'm gassing myself up here. I guess I might as well. Ayo. But it does kind of like take me out of the immersion a little bit when I see this that like looks like it's right out of the anime, and then this where I'm like, okay, or sorry, this where I'm like, okay, that's definitely Dokkan. The other thing that I did notice when I was getting into this that I feel like is a huge thing for me personally is that Trunks' hair is really inconsistent and is only in the intro, because for the rest of this he's in, what form is that? Full power? I don't even remember. I haven't watched the Goku Black arc in a fat minute. But Trunks is like full power mode, right? With the electricity and the blue aura in the middle of the yellow. That, his hair is spiked up, so this problem doesn't really occur for the rest of this animation. But look how short his hair looks here, and look how almost like tucked back, or like, not like he took gel and glazed it back, because obviously it's still those little like bananas that kind of go out to the side of his head, but it almost looks like it rounds the back of his head a lot more, whereas with this shot it definitely looks like it's almost like a staircase. I know these are terrible ways to describe a hairstyle, but this is just the best way that I can think to describe it to you, right? His hair is definitely a lot more spiked up, and even in like these shots, right, his hair definitely looks a lot less like it rounds his head, and it's a little bit more spiked up if he leaned his head forward. Maybe it is a little bit more rounded there on that shot, but like here especially, right, this even looks like it's a little bit more rounded. I don't know, it just feels a little bit inconsistent in length in this section. Like this, it feels a lot longer than the shot that follows it, and even it feels like it's shorter here than it is here, but that could also be the angle too, for sure. I just wanted to point that out because that is something that I noticed. Definitely let me know how you feel about that in the comments. Again, it's not a huge issue either. It's just something I wanted to point out since we're, of course, scrutinizing the animations here. All right. So obviously we have these couple of Trunks cuts here with him talking, which actually look pretty cool. Before we have him take a step, see, this looks a lot better in terms of him taking a step forward. It's not perfect, for sure, but it definitely looks a lot better than Vegeta sliding across the screen, right? They at least move the asset up, and they have Trunks' arms move a little bit to sort of represent him walking, right? That feels a lot more natural than just Vegeta sliding forward. By the way, speaking of Vegeta, he looks so good in the background of this shot. So good. We obviously have Trunks come forward a little bit, and he obviously gets ready to power up. This shot is also very, very nice too. There's a lot of nice shots in this intro, I will say. So we cut back to this with Vegeta taking the same pose. I think that this is probably the... his arms are a little bit of a different position, yeah, so I think it's not the exact same asset. But obviously here we have Trunks squat up, right? And honestly, this is pretty well animated. There aren't that really many like pose changes here. Like the ones that they choose to sort of have him go down feel a lot more natural with him squatting for sure. Then, of course, ooh, we have some nice impact frames for Trunks as well. They did the sort of the same thing, which is interesting because he's not Super Saiyan Blue, but he does have that blue aura in the middle, so I suppose it still fits. Again, the same sort of thing. It sparks up from the bottom, and then it envelops him, which looks really, really nice. Oh, it explodes at the top! That is really cool. This shot is super nice with both of them there as well. Oh, man. That's a good shot for sure. I really, really like the aura. Alright, so moving on to the 12 key. Before we get into this, I think that Trunks flying forward here looks really, really nice. I definitely like the way that this looks. I will say, I don't quite like that they have him change his arm position so, like, harshly like that, because you can definitely see it right there, right? From one shot to the next, and it also kind of changes the position of his hair and his face. His face also looks a little bit too, like, his face is too big for the surface of his head, or the surface where his face should go. I think this face isn't necessarily bad, but I think it's just a little bit too big for this animation. Now, I do definitely like the electricity here, and there is actually some really tiny movement to emphasize Trunks winding up here. You'll miss it if you blink, but keep an eye on this arm here. You can see as we go frame by frame, his fist actually gets a little bit smaller and he pulls his arm back, which is a very nice touch. As well, the bananas flowing in the wind also look very, very nice for Trunks' hair too. This is a nice sort of, you know, zoom into Trunks' face. Definitely a good way to transition the shot. For sure. I would have definitely preferred not the cut. You guys know I always like if they have a sort of transition where they like wrap around the character, but it's definitely not too bad, right? That's definitely nitpick on my part for sure. All right. So we obviously have Trunks sort of fly forward here. The aura, again, staying looking very, very nice. A elbow to Zamasu's chest here, with Zamasu shaking a little bit. Oh, this part is so good, dude. When I saw this, I about lost it. This, first of all, Ballerina Trunks, you gotta love it. But this is animated so well. So it is a little bit hard to tell. This is the part where I wish that the video on YouTube would render a little bit faster so you could see this in a little bit higher quality. Actually, you know, as a matter of fact, we're going to refresh it just to see if we have 720p available to us yet. Do we? Ah, lovely. You love to see it, ladies and gentlemen. You love to see it. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. But, oh, that looks a lot better. Good, good, good. So with Trunks spinning, right, the way that they do this is they animate it so that he's sort of already blurred a little bit, right? You can see as he's spinning, they blur his sprite here, right? To sort of emulate that quick movement. And I believe this is anime accurate. And obviously this is the way that a lot of anime do this as well, to sort of emphasize his quick movement, right? It looks sort of goofy, obviously going frame by frame like this, where they literally just take, you know, how he looks and then they just apply a little bit of motion blur to it. But in actual movement, right? Oh my gosh, this looks so good. It looks kind of funny like this. It almost looks like he really is just dancing, but in full speed, right? It looks great. I really, really like that section a lot, for sure. That is definitely one of my favorite parts of this essay. Absolutely. Alright, so moving on from that, I also like on the final kick, right? Let me see if I can actually get it. Sorry, I keep making it full screen. Sometimes when you press pause and play too fast, it likes to go full screen. This right here is such a nice follow through. So you have Trunks about to ready up for the final kick. He kicks it back, right? You have this nice impact. Zamasu flies back, and you can actually see the way that they emphasize this is they use that blur again to sort of have Trunks's body feel like it then follows through, and his leg actually moves just a tiny bit, just a tiny little bit, right, to again emphasize that, and then you can see it sort of follow through as it goes back. Very, very good shot there. I like that shot a lot. I feel like a lot of people overlook it because it is so far away, and I feel like people tend to focus on a lot more of the close-ups, which is understandable, but it is a nice shot. By the way, this is so cool. So they have Trunks teleport in here with the blue aura around him, and once they finally have him come all the way in, then he gets the aura. I don't know if they didn't want to like put the aura in with him teleporting, or they didn't want to like animate the entire aura like phasing out of existence, but honestly, I like the way that they did this. I think it's cool. You can see Trunks even winding up just a little bit here. It's always so impressive that they managed to get this movement on these such small assets here, right? We have Trunks wind up once again for this kick, and it looks pretty good. You have a very nice follow-through where he actually kicks all the way up. My gosh, maybe Trunks really is a ballerina. Did this man take ballerina lessons in his spare time? Let's go ahead and see that kick, by the way, in full motion before we get to Vegeta. We're going to go through the funny spin again, right? Because it does look a little bit choppy in practice, but I feel like I don't know, I feel like the posing in this one flows a lot better. It feels a lot more natural than in other essays, right? We have Vegeta fly forward here. I definitely am not too big of a fan of this right here, where Vegeta has this section where he sort of changes poses a little bit awkwardly. His face also there looks a little bit goofy, but it's kind of so far away that you can't really tell. Him moving forward here, I definitely like the look of the key. I think his face also looks a little bit goofy here, but you can see some minimal movement on his whole body. They kind of have it pulse a little bit and his arms move, which I think is definitely a nice way to do that for sure. Sorry about that. Something started playing in the background. I had to turn off the audio. Anyway, we have Vegeta fly forward here. I do wish that, again, there was a little bit more there. You guys know I always prefer something in between, but again, it's not bad for sure. We do have a very nice look at the key here as he flies forward, and what's interesting is it doesn't really look like his aura moves until he actually makes contact with Zamasu, which is interesting. I guess it just moves so fast that you wouldn't be able to tell that it's not moving, but it is kind of weird that they didn't animate it for that, because it's not like they can't. I don't know, very strange. Anyway, we have Vegeta's fist make impact with Zamasu. This is a part where I think that the rapid punches actually look a lot better, right? I definitely always prefer a little bit more movement in between, even if they are super quick like this. But this is definitely a lot better way to do that than the Goku Black that we took at moments ago, or we took a look at, excuse me, moments ago, right? Obviously, it looks a little bit weird because it's so slow, but in full motion, that looks a lot more natural than the way that Goku Black did it for sure. Now, I'm already noticing something a little bit weird here. So first of all, they use the same Vegeta asset here again, which is interesting. You don't really notice it or think about it because obviously it gets interrupted by the rapid punches in the middle of this. But we have Vegeta move his arms down, and I'm not a big fan of that. I'm never a big fan of when they do quick facial expression changes like that. It's a little yucky, I'm not going to lie. And his face here also doesn't necessarily look the greatest. It looks... it looks a little goofy. I ain't even gonna lie to you. This is also a really interesting angle here. So his arm is like almost buried against his body, and then they have it instantly come forward. I feel like this would have felt a lot more natural if they would have had his fist already winding up rather than it just cutting and having it be engulfed in blue, right? Or if they would have had it at least like in the same position rather than it being buried against him. I do like that they added the aura because that is a nice attention to detail that obviously his hand is sort of breaking free of the aura that's enveloping all around him, right? That is definitely a very nice touch. We have this sort of almost first-person view of the fist fly forward. And then Dokkan does like to do this a lot where they have the punch fly upward and then hit the enemy. I think the punch looks pretty good, and I definitely like that final follow-through. The only unfortunate thing about this is it feels a little bit inconsistent only because look how small the sprite is. This is not the fault of this SA, right? This is definitely the sprite. Vegeta must be Piccolo because he is literally a giant compared to Zamasu in this scene. He is huge. Again, you probably won't notice it because it's so quick, and it's just the sprites being the sprites, because if they made the sprite any bigger, it would literally just be like a green, a black, and a purple pixel, basically. But we have the enemy fly away as Vegeta hits them. We then have the card art on screen, which looks very nice, by the way. Definitely did a good job with that for sure. This is very cool. We have Vegeta do these rapid ki blasts here, which I actually think this animation looks pretty good as well. Even on Trunks, it looks a little bit better too. And I gotta say, wow, even besides them and the aura, I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park on the way that the ki blasts look, especially for Trunks. You can see as they leave his hands, right, they sort of turn into a little bit more of an oval shape and actually feel like they have a little bit more animation. I like these little spikes of energy as well that sort of come out of Trunks' hand too as they fly away. Definitely very, very good looking stuff on that section as well. We have these, which these could definitely look a little bit better. They do go into that oval shape, but they still don't feel as lifelike, right? They just kind of feel like they had them fly forward and just called it a day. This explosion effect is alright. It is basically just smoke billowing. It doesn't really have too much movement. I think it moves like a tiny bit in the beginning. Obviously, when it's sort of exploding outward, it moves a lot more. But they kind of have it stale here, which is a little bit disappointing because a lot of the time, you know, they don't have it just stick like that. I guess this is sort of like right here, it would then cut and say KO if you beat him with this move. And then so it shakes like this because that would be the KO screen. And they don't want to like make the scene continue on when the KO is there. It just kind of pauses, right? But it is still a little bit weird compared to how they've done it before. Okay, so... oh man. The 18 key is really cool. Alright, so first of all, we have this very nice shot. It's kind of hard to tell because obviously it's fading in for the sake of the edit of this animation. But we have Vegeta fly forward here with the rocks and dust kicking up, which looks really, really cool. He goes up to Goku Black here. This is a very nice shot. You're like, wait, where did Trunks come from? Oh, here comes Vegeta. I love the way that they animated the aura for this before Vegeta shows up. We obviously have Trunks flying forward, but you can see even the little edges of his aura have a little bit of animation, right? Obviously him holding the sword. It's interesting that they didn't have it sort of cover the sword, but I guess that makes sense. It's sort of cutting out. And you can see it almost looks like he's spinning around with how the animation sort of breaks away, right? The key sort of breaks up. I really, really like that. We have Vegeta fly up as well, which this movement looks really, really cool. I definitely like that. This super heavy reminds me of SSBK and SSBE, right? That LR card with Goku and Vegeta. The way that he moves here and the style of it looks a lot like that card to me. Really, really like that movement there, though. It's so good. Now, the one thing I will say, and I think that as far as I remember, we'll nitpick it, of course, a little bit more, but I think the one thing that I don't like about this essay is the very strange change in art style that is very abrupt right here. So this feels a lot more like Dokkan style, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Whereas this feels a lot more akin to the anime. And it's so weird to see this lot more like heavy shading sort of disappear. Like there's still shading on this, right? But there is a lot less shading for sure than on this, right? And a lot less more like thicker black lines, right? They turn very thin here. It is a little bit jarring to have that jump, you know, go immediately. I love that movement though. Yeah, right there. That is a little bit jarring. And it's also weird because it's like you have him moving so quickly up to the screen. And then he just stops and sort of sits there for a moment. And you have this really slow punch. I don't know. It just feels a little bit off-putting to me personally. I think the wind-up for the punch is fine. And also I think Vegeta's face is a little bit too far up his face plate. The area of his face, right? I think it's a little bit too far up. It feels just a little bit off to me personally. But we have a pretty decent punch, and oh, the animation here is very, very nice. This section with Vegeta punching has a lot of small details that is really, really cool. With Vegeta pulling his punch back and then whipping it forward, even a little bit of head and leg movement here, right? I love that he actually throws it sideways, right? And it's not like straightforward like the wind-up sort of implicated that it would be. He even follows through on it too, right? And the punch to the face looks so satisfying as well, cutting away from all the crazy aura, right? It is a little bit of a shame that, again, this is the sprite doing this. There isn't a sprite with the aura that's this close-up punch, so Rose has his aura here, and then he doesn't have it when he gets punched in the face in the middle of this, right? And then when you go back to this, he has it again. A little bit of a shame, but again, that's not the fault of Vegeta here. So this part looks really good. I love the movement on Vegeta here as well as he's beating down Goku Black. Very, very nice movement on the very small sprite here, right? Lots of cool stuff here. You can see Vegeta kick up, spin around, and then kick forward. I love that raise of the leg too. Looks so nice. We have Vegeta flying forward here as well with the very nice spin kick too. I love this shot as well. Obviously very reminiscent of the ROF Vegeta when he's kicking forward, right? Look how elongated his boot looks, which is so cool because obviously, you know, it makes it feel like it's a lot closer to the screen and it's moving really fast because it doesn't look like it's the correct shape to your eyes, right? Because it's so close up, right? It's almost like a fisheye lens sort of view. Very, very cool. Oh, that follow-through is also really nice. There's a lot of good follow-through in this essay for sure. This essay has a lot of really good follow-through on the kicks and punches, which I feel like is something that a lot of Dokkan essays lack. A lot of good stuff. This shot of Trunks, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I wish that this section was a little bit longer just so that we could see this beautiful animation for a little bit longer on the screen because it is really there for not that long. I love how, too, they sort of have Trunks piercing through his aura a little bit or sort of implicating these flying forward super fast. I wish this section was longer just so we could see more of it. It's perfect in length the way that it is, but just so we could see it move a little bit more. We have the really cool slashes emphasized by the lines in the dark. They've been doing that a little bit lately with the Trunks cards, even a little bit of finish up too. We have Trunks go up for the big slice, which I love that they cut up to this because they totally could have just kept this in the small view here. But no, we get a very, very clean shot of Trunks holding the sword above his head here before we get the slash forward. And the slash as well also looks fantastic. Let me go back to that. It's so quick. It's so hard to get, right? You have the very quick slash, and I love the way that they animated that as well, blurring it too to make it feel obviously more, you know, like a quick slash. Goku Black flying towards the ground here. We have the card art pop up on the screen. Oh man, I need a drink of water. This is so good. Okay, so we have Trunks charging up the Ki Blast here, which is really cool. I think this looks nice. The aura looks so good. Oh, okay. I'm getting a little too excited. We have some very nice rotoscoping here. When it zooms into Trunks, right, it almost looks a little bit 3D, right? Like it's obviously going to the front view of him, right? You sort of have this overhead view, and then as it zooms in, you are now looking at him from the front. That is some clean rotoscoping from Dokkan. Definitely makes this animation feel a lot more alive and 3D. The unfortunate thing is, it switches to this sprite, or this asset, right after. And I don't even think it looks that bad, to be honest. It's just, again, so strange that, like, the shading changes, and you can clearly see the art style change a little bit here, too. It is very hard to notice in the actual animation because, of course, you're seeing all these lights and the key right in front of your face. So it's really hard to even tell that it's there. But obviously, you can see it if you pay close attention, right? But it is only there for a few frames, so it's honestly not that bad. The hair movement is nice, and I love this zoom out and sort of the first-person view of you getting hit with the key is also a very cool touch. I love when they do first-person views like this. It looks very cool. I do wish that it was a little bit less of just a circle sort of growing towards the screen, but I don't really know what else they would have done besides that. It is cool too that you can still see the electricity shooting out of Trunks' hands. Even when he's so far away, you can see those little red sparks coming out there as well. Okay, this shot of Vegeta, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. This is a fire shot of Vegeta. The art style here is so good. I love the key effects all over him. I like these blue lines sort of firing up. This almost looks like the Broly movie style, just a tad, just a tad. The way that the key forms in his hand is so perfect. Let me show you that in the actual, like, you know, not me going through frame by frame. Look at how that feels. Like it grows so naturally in his hands. Wow, that looks amazing. I love the aura as well that's always around his body too. Like that's a little bit of the white edge that sort of encapsulates him too. The electricity looks very nice. And there is a little bit of minimal movement right before he fires it, where you can see he actually pulls his arms back. It's a little bit hard to tell because obviously the Ki Blasts, you know, are very much so blinding your view, but his arms are a lot more out. And then he pulls them back just a slight little bit. You can see his arms look a little bit smaller now because obviously he's pulling back the attack. This section is also very, very nice. The only thing that I kind of don't like is, oh, that's a little rough. The only thing is, though, obviously you're not supposed to, you know, go through this frame by frame. And in motion, it sort of helps emphasize the movement, feeling a lot more dramatic, right? It just looks very goofy for that specific frame. Yeah, so this looks very nice. With him moving his hands forward, I don't think I really have any complaints. Maybe besides that little bit of a weird, you know, sort of small face. But this looks really good with him launching it forward. I like how it sort of disappears before it flies forward. A beautiful impact frame here as well. I love the look of the key exploding out of Vegeta's hands as well. It's always nice to see them do that. And then a very nice faraway shot with it flying forward. And obviously you can see the key still going in the background. Now, one thing that I do want to note about this essay, and this section specifically, which is really, really cool, is finally we have another manga reference. This is actually the Gamma Burst from the Dragon Ball Super manga, which is really cool that they took it from this. I suppose that they didn't have like too many crazy attacks to take from the anime, so I suppose it makes sense that for a few of the shots they took a couple liberties, and I think that this is a perfect one to take from. And not just that, it's always cool to get more references to the manga, because I think the only one for the DBS manga that we have is AGL Zamasu. You can correct me on that in the comments if I'm wrong, for sure. But definitely a very cool little reference, for sure. And we obviously have this beautiful looking blast on the ground here. I really, really like the way that this looks. It doesn't look that great when we're going here through frame by frame, but in motion, let me play through that for you in 1/10 speed. Actually, I'm tripping over my words because I'm getting so excited. Look how amazing that looks. And that even has a little bit of rotoscoping too. It's kind of hard to catch. It's sort of right there at the end. You can see it looks like it's spinning around, but that's also, I suppose, I don't know if that's as much rotoscoping as just, I mean, I guess it is technically still rotoscoping, but the, you know, way that they do the effects of like the lines throughout this big blast sort of make it look like it's spinning. And of course, the big payoff for this animation and the, I assume would be the KO screen, right, for these guys, is that after the explosion is there, they both teleport with their ki still fired up. You can kind of see a little bit, it almost looks like Trunks has a little bit more of a sprite, whereas Vegeta's looks almost a lot more closer to when he just did the Gamma Flash, but it's hard to tell because obviously they both teleport in, and I think it still looks really good. Definitely a very nice follow-up to that animation. Alright, so it's time for the big kahuna, ladies and gentlemen. We have the active skill. Trunks' face here does look a little bit goofy, but again, keep in mind, excuse me, I'm just nitpicking that for sure. Alright, so we have Trunks talking it up with his dad. This shot also looks very good of Vegeta too. Both of them getting ready to fire the Galick Gun. This close-up shot of Trunks looks cool too. I do think that his mouth is maybe a little bit too big. That might, again, just be me nitpicking, but especially with his teeth closed, definitely feels like they should just turn that down a little bit. It's also interesting, too, that you can tell, right, that this asset is blown up a little bit in terms of size, because this looks very, very nice in quality, and you can actually see the pixels. I mean, not like you can't see the pixels throughout the whole thing, because obviously it's a 720p video, but you can see the sort of crunchiness defined a lot more on this asset. You can see the little dots on his tongue, right, than the rest of the essay, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why they don't just make it the same size. Maybe it's because they use these lip flaps for other parts of the animation, but, you know, just an interesting detail to point out. This face, though, I will say, definitely is not that great. However, the transition is so good. You guys know I always am like, hey, I don't like it when they cut. I'd rather them do a cool transition. And this is literally that. Exactly. This is literally that perfectly, right? They have this little zoom out of Trunks and a little wind around to him getting ready to fire the Galick Gun. And even though it does look choppy looking at it frame by frame here, in actual full motion, I really wish there was a key command to make it go normal speed. That looks good. I think it looks nice, right? They definitely did a good job on that too. Again, I love it when they do transitions like that rather than just doing, you know, a jump cut. It always feels a little bit better. This is really cool too. I love the way that they, even though they just have this fade in, right, and they have the electricity fade in as well, immediately as it takes full color, right, they have it sort of change shape and move around Trunks. The electricity effects here as well are on point. This looks so good. I really, really love this section a lot. It is really, really cool. Then, of course, we have the transition, which is more just like a jump cut, but I feel like this jump cut works a lot better. Oh, before that, I forgot about this part. Oh my gosh, this part is really cool too. Obviously, this is when Trunks is giving the monologue, you know, about all of the people that he's helping out, right? We have everybody come through, Bulma, the kids from the future. We have Yajirobe. Very, very cool. I like that they included this, obviously, Trunks' men. Super cool. I love that they even bothered to include that, because they definitely didn't have to. They could have just had him talking and had the Galick Gun there. So it's nice that they remembered to include that. We do have a cut over to Vegeta, which I think is a very good cut. It would have been cool if they would have done like him, you know, like the camera sweeping over to Vegeta standing next to him. But I can't complain, because they did they did a transition into the Galick Gun. So I got what I wanted. But yeah, this is very cool. Vegeta looks pretty good here. I will say something about this face looks a little bit off to me, but again, that is also very nitpicking. I can admit when I'm nitpicking, because I definitely am. The key on Vegeta looks fantastic here, though. The shading as well on both Trunks and Vegeta for the Galick Gun looks so good. They definitely nailed it. Absolutely. I think that they absolutely nailed it for sure. We then have the final shot here, where we cut back to Trunks, which is interesting that they don't have it start with Vegeta, but I guess that sort of makes sense, because I think that Trunks in the anime is the one who starts it up. Like I said, I haven't seen the Black arc in a while. But yeah, basically the same asset of Trunks. And funny enough, they almost like reverse it, right? This is definitely not an asset from that beginning part. But I think... No, I think that is a little bit different. Let's go back and check. Let's take a look. In the part where it pans... Let's see. No, those are definitely a little bit different. Those are definitely a little bit different. It's not too much of a crazy difference, but it is definitely a little bit different for sure. They definitely did a little bit of a different asset for that, which is good. I always liked when they do it a little bit different. This wind-up shot is also very nice in full motion. And they did a pan! They were listening! The camera pan here is so cool. Hold on, go back. Don't rob me of this, please. So we have Trunks fire it forward, and then... right, he's getting ready to fire it. They pan over to Vegeta, which is so cool. And then obviously they have it zoom out, and they throw their arms forward and finally fire the Galick Gun, which looks so nice. This shot looks really cool too, with both of them standing there. And then the Galick Gun effects. Whenever they do the Galick Gun, I don't know why, they always shaft the Kamehameha, but the Galick Gun always looks so cool, right? These crazy explosions of light, the super spiky lines, the electricity, right? It all looks super cool. You can see as well, it almost looks like the energy is flowing around the middle circle with the line sort of moving around it, right? This shot here as well, I remember this very well from the anime. This shot looks super good of it pouring into Zamasu with all their energy. Very, very cool. This is finally an appropriate use for a sprite. This actually fits the scene quite well. We have Zamasu get pushed back by the Galick Gun. And then a explosion effect at the end here. I like this little circle effect as we have the sort of smoke cloud billow out, which is cool because it makes a lot more sense that it's just the smoke hitting them. Because obviously they're just hitting one object in the sky rather than destroying something, right? We also have this plume of smoke fly out as well. And this animation ain't done yet, ladies and gentlemen. I was very impressed. I was like, oh, that's the end. But we have Vegeta and Trunks here out of breath after using up all that energy to fire the Galick Gun. Oh, it's so good. Vegeta looks over at his son, very proud. Vegeta's face does look a little bit strange here, I will say. But again, nitpicking for sure. Then we have a cut to Trunks. This is the one part I will say that did kind of take me out of the immersion a little bit, because we have another moment here where this looks a lot more akin to the anime style, and then this is like, whoa, that's a Dokkan asset. Look at those thick black lines. But I don't think Trunks necessarily looks bad here. It was just very jarring going from this to this for me personally, right? But I definitely think this looks good. They use some good, you know, like quick movements here. I think Trunks moving his head up here. Let me go back to that. It's hard to get that since it's so quick, right? From here to here is pretty good. His face, again, looks a little bit strange, I think, right before this one, right? Like this frame. He's also quick, so it's so hard to get. Here it looks a little bit strange, but again, nitpicking. I'm sorry. I'm analyzing it, bro. I have to. All right. So yeah, then we have this nice end shot of Trunks here smiling at his dad, which is very, very cool. And that is the whole animation. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a really good one. I really, really like this one. I think that this is probably one of my favorite recent Dokkan essays. I feel like the last couple ones, there's been some good things in them, but overall, I've been like, I'm not really feeling it. This one, even though there are a couple of things that I definitely, nitpicked a little bit and I didn't like about it, I think overall, I really like it, and there are some scenes as well that really help this essay stand out and are super striking to the overall presence of this animation, right? It's great. I really like these ones. Please, please, please let me know what you think of this one in the comment section below. I think that you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't like these animations, because I think even from everything that I've just seen from the preliminary reactions on Twitter and whatnot, people seem to really like these animations, and I definitely agree. These guys, I think, are worthy, for sure, with the quality of these animations, of being the Tanabata Dokkan Fest LR. But again, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as well. Let me know what's your favorite animation out of everything that we've seen here. I honestly think for me it's the 18 key. I do quite like the Father Son Galick Gun, but that Gamma Burst, oh man, so good. It just looks so nice. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you all in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.